Good morning.
Welcome to the professors. We ain't crazy. We're licensed.
And apparently we're talented with a little something on the hymns. Boy, I was feeling that. I'm like John Legend. Boy, that was everything right now. I can't believe.
Good. Okay.
Okay. So I'm Dr. Mark Brana, licensed clinical.
Come on, bitches.
Shamika Green, Tesla Queen, starting trouble. Starting in early.
Casey Casillas Nichols.
Head bitch in charge.
Hey, yeah, just a HBIC.
That's right.
Bill today. Yeah.
That's it.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We're doing a 9 a.m. session again.
Back at 9 a.m.
Back at it.
Living.
Back at it again.
How you guys doing this morning?
I feel good. I put on a dress. I feel like it's picture day.
Yes.
Back in school.
It's picture day.
I mean, I put on this women run shit.
I want one.
Yeah. One of the homegirls got this
Can
for
you hook me up?
Yeah. I'll phone.
Okay. Hook me up.
I got my Bruno t-shirt on. My real gift is acting.
Oh, I didn't even see that.
That movie is so good. I don't care what anybody says. That movie.
It is. My kids love that movie.
Yeah. That's.
I've seen it about 7,000 times. Encanto.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because you know what? That abuelita shame and guilt, that is real.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely real.
Oh, yeah.
You want to do
Don't
not
have to
the
tell me.
generational traumas. Okay, anyways.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So this week we're talking about imposter syndrome. And how do you guys define imposter syndrome?
Why are you looking like?
How do you describe it, Mark?
So
Not Casey throwing it back.
Yeah.
On you.
throwing it back, pulling the therapist move.
Right.
Tell us.
So
tell me.
when I'm looking at imposter syndrome, it's that anxiety that comes up when, you know, you're successful, but you don't feel it. You don't believe it. You doubt yourself, even though you have all the subjective information that tells you that you are good at what you do, that you're successful and all that. It makes you feel like a fraud. You doubt your abilities. You kind of feel like you're a phony.
The key word for me was fraud. You start feeling like you're a fraud.
Not a fugazi.
Yeah.
Fugazi.
Yeah, fugazi.
So
Wait. I wanted to say, can we just say imposter syndrome also is not only within the self, but also within like interpersonal relationships?
Oh, 100%.
And the job. I mean, I assumed we were going to talk about the job, but I also wanted to talk about the interpersonal side of.
Oh, 100%.
Oh, you're going to have to break that down.
For sure.
Go ahead.
Oh, right now?
No better time.
Oh, wasn't prepared.
Get the rabbit.
It's a fan. Because I don't know how this weather's going to be. My hair is already, you guys, I don't know how humid it is, but we're about to find out to see how curly, how curly it gets. Is
Case
how
to be walking
humid.
out with a fro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think imposter syndrome, when it goes into interpersonal relationships, makes me think of the movie Mean Girls.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Of you wanting to be part of something and you have to go against, you know what I mean? Go against what you kind of, who you are to fit in.
Ooh.
Okay.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And like your real friends know who you are.
But changing to like fit in with the crowd.
Yeah.
Changing who you are. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So is that like when people on social media and they do things and say things and then people be like, I know you in real life. Like, is that what you're saying? Like,
yeah.
Okay.
All of it. All of
Okay.
it.
Okay.
So I knew we were going to talk about the work stuff, but I wanted to talk about that because that's running rampant just in general.
Right.
And there's a thing on my Instagram, if you scroll way down, and it says like, fuck your social media, I'm dope in real life.
Oh,
That is 1,000%.
listen. Okay.
Like,
Okay.
you know what I'm saying? Okay, so
who
Well,
came
and
prepared
you
for
know,
the assignment.
as a therapist, I know that's come up with some of my clients where they're comparing themselves to the people that have posted like all this shit about how successful or whatever they are online, and they don't feel that they're living up to it. In reality, they are. But, you know, people only post the good shit online.
Facts.
The highlights.
Nobody posts the bad shit leading up to it.
But me, I keep it real.
I mean, it goes one way or the other, right? Because then you got the people that
Messy.
that only stay messy, that only post the bad shit.
Right.
So they never post good shit. So I think we can put both sets of those people in the same category, is all I'm saying.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and absolutely you could, because it's drawing attention to kind of fill that need for attention, but it's not real.
Yeah. It's very
Come on, Dr. Mark.
borderline personality.
Ooh, we bring it in the borderlines.
Like,
She
no.
going therapy.
And for
not.
those of you that don't know what borderline is, crazy.
Right, but don't go out there using the language
Yeah.
if you don't know what you're talking
Let a
about.
professional diagnose
She's
them.
a professional.
Please
Okay?
no.
She's a professional.
All right.
But they super crazy. So one of the things like imposter syndrome, in some of the reading I did leading up to this too, like I know as therapists and as professionals, we've all probably experienced this. We've seen this with clients, but I was a little more curious going in to see how much writing has been done on this. And I was actually surprised to find a lot of stuff. And one of the things that stuck out was 5 different types of imposter syndromes. The
5 different types?
Yeah. The perfectionist, where everything has to be perfect in order to make everybody happy, in order to try and gain that sense of satisfaction, but it never is.
Okay.
It never is. So there's a constant feeling of failure that goes with it. The Superman or Superwoman, and this is the person that will like sacrifice themselves to stay at work longer, to try and outdo everybody by giving and giving and giving, and all their personal life goes to the side, and yet they still feel like a failure. They still feel like a phony. They feel like they're not giving enough, right?
Yeah.
You have the natural genius, which this is a person that just naturally flows in. Like they seem to pick up everything really quickly, and they don't need to study. They're like the ones in school that didn't really need to
Sounds like
crack
an
a book.
asshole.
Yeah. What you saying? But the crux of that though is when they face adversity, it devastates everything.
Okay.
The soloist, this is a person that never wants to ask for help. They've got to do everything on their own. They micromanage, they do. And there's a fair level of micromanagement in perfectionists too. And then the expert, they have to sound knowledgeable
Okay.
and everything. And that's how they try to compensate for that feeling of inferiority. They try to sound and come across as more knowledgeable than everybody else, but inside they feel like a phony.
Trying to see where
Those
I was
are-
on the list.
Some hardcore Disneyland fans. And I'm going to say that. That's what I'm saying. Like, that is a hardcore.
Yeah.
Like, if you've ever gone to Disneyland with somebody that is a know-it-all and that shit just fucking drains you. Like, I mean, sucks the soul right out of my heart. Like, just my whole shell empty because.
Because they know it all?
Yeah.
Oh.
And it's like, you're wrong. No.
Oh.
Walt actually said, bitch, I don't care.
That person.
Right.
Okay.
So have you guys ever experienced imposter syndromes yourself? Because I know I have.
Well, I'm going to tell it.
Yeah.
So, did
Go
you want
ahead.
to go?
No, go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
I'm just saying, yeah. I have.
So, I feel like this is a 2-part
Okay.
kind of question for me, because when I think about imposter syndrome, of course I think about feeling like you're not worthy, you're not good enough, you're not meant to be there. But what's crazy to me is that when I really didn't know it all or have it all, I was the most confident. And so when I was thinking about imposter syndrome, I was like, damn, I was thinking about when I was living in Detroit and I was still in college, right, in my undergrad, and I had applied for this job. And it was at a factory, but I was going to be doing admin stuff. I knew for a fact I was not qualified, right? So I go in there and the lady's like, you have to be proficient in Excel. We're not going to help you. We won't teach you. So she set me in front of the computer and I was like just fucking around on it, right?
Jesus.
And she was like, you're bombing.
Wow.
And I was still trying to finesse. I was like,
Detroit, keeping it real.
I was like,
There's something wrong with this
I was
keyboard.
Like, I was like, this.
Your computer broken.
I was like, this Excel is different from at school. She was like, log out.
Ooh,
Oh.
don't be wasting her time.
And I left.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
I still think about that shit to this day. She was like, you're bombing. And I was like, fuck. I was trying to move the cells. And I was on that bitch. I was still trying.
Yeah.
I knew I didn't have it.
Not,
I didn't have it.
not with the straight face too, huh?
Yeah,
With their
I was like, this is different from the skull. Yeah. So I didn't get the job.
the pearls.
Shocking.
Right.
Shocking.
Cliffhanger. Plot twist.
Glad you got that out of the way.
That's the best story. I swear she comes with the best stories.
She does. She is. I don't know if I can top that.
I know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm gonna come in with like a sad one. I'm like,
Right.
So have you had a situation though, like job? So let's maybe start early on, like where you thought maybe you weren't qualified, but maybe you were. Like you felt some kind of
Like you
imposter
could do
syndrome.
it regardless.
Have you or were you?
For work?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it when I was working with my federal probationers,
Right.
because you want to talk about reading you for filth and ready to come for you, and if you're not like quick,
The client?
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
then you're
okay.
then you're just
Okay.
gonna get eaten alive, and then you're any shred of like ego or
Right.
self-esteem you have is gone.
But that's one of the reasons I tell my interns that they should work in a program like that to get their feet under them, because it will make you a better therapist.
For sure. And I think that's what
Damn.
I want to say, like the yard raised me, so to
Right.
speak, because they
Oh.
every single one of those clients did like shape me to be who I am, and good and bad, right?
Mhm.
So there was just a point where I was in group and I just knew there was I think it was somebody that wanted to graduate, and I didn't agree that he should be graduating because
Okay.
he was doing whatever. And it was the first time where they were like, well, then you go tell him.
Mhm.
Oh.
And I was like, oh.
I'm not breaking the bad news.
I was, yeah, right. Because I'm still the
Damn.
intern in school, and I'm like,
Woo.
well, I'm just, and they're like, well, tell us why you think that. And I gave my clinical justification. They're like, sounds appropriate. Go tell him.
Mhm.
And I was like, all right. So I'm thinking to myself, bitch, you opened your mouth with this, but just do it. Rip off the Band-Aid, just
Okay.
go in there and do it. And I sat him down and I was like, listen, I know that you're going to do this, this, and this, and you think you're graduating, but based on this, I don't think it would be appropriate to let you go up. And I'm talking to you now to tell you that I want you to stay back like another month. It was something big too.
Damn.
And he was like, are you fucking kidding me? And said what he said. And then I just went back to like, you know, what I saw. And I said, listen, I don't feel comfortable moving you up and then not setting you up for success. And then what happens? Then you're going to end up being locked back up again and doing all this shit, being away from your family. And then when I was just able to just break down therapist Casey out of the way, and then like
Yeah.
real Casey, like, listen, motherfucker, this is real shit. Like,
Right.
shit's about to get even more real if we don't do this way. This is what I'm seeing, and I'm being genuine with you right now.
Right.
And he like accepted it so gracefully.
Damn.
Yeah.
And he was like, all right. And he stayed back the extra month. He was prepared to go. And like, I think at that time I was making them teach their own class for like 3-4 hours.
Mhm.
And he did it and he killed it. And he
Okay.
was like, I am so glad you kept me.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's when I knew I was like,
Well, no wonder you're the boss. You were prepped for leadership.
Yeah.
well, that's the thing. I have a big ass mouth. And so if I'm going to run it, I'm going to have to back it. And I don't.
Don't
I'm
write
a-
a check. Your ass can't cash.
I know that's right. And I don't say shit that I don't back. And
Right.
if I'm going to, and then if I'm the boss, if I'm going to ask somebody to do something, I better be willing to do it myself.
Yeah.
Too.
And that's what you
I
said
am
before
not-
about
yep.
students too.
I'm not above that
Okay.
shit, so
Right.
we ain't with it.
So for me, because with imposter syndrome, for me, it's like I know I'm qualified to do something, but I don't feel that I can do it because I feel like an imposter. And for me, I think, it's shown up. I mean, it still shows up periodically through, as a therapist and everything. But I think one of the biggest moments where I experienced it was when I first started teaching at the college level. Okay. And I love teaching in person. I really don't like teaching online as much, but I love being in the classroom in person. And I know you don't.
I hate it.
But
thank you.
part of the reason that I enjoy it is there's a rush that comes with it because like I feel the imposter syndrome. Like even now, even though I know the shit, like I've done a ton with this stuff, I've learned it multiple times over and everything, to be up in front of people and teach. It's hard. And I can remember my first day, the very first class and everything, like I was nervous as shit, even though I know the stuff.
Right.
Been doing that for a long time, and I knew the stuff, but yet I had this constant feeling, and it took a while to I mean, it's still there, but it's this constant feeling of, if these people knew that I'm just winging this off the cuff, they're going to find out I'm a fraud. I'm going to lose my job. It's not going to, and the thing is, I'm not.
Right.
Like my classes and when I'm lecturing in person, I've got it mapped out. I know what I'm doing and I know the shit, but I don't feel like it.
Yeah. You don't feel like it.
And my students, when I'm teaching in person, they, part of the way I cope with it is, I move around the class and I walk as I'm teaching, and and part of it is just to keep them from, just looking up front and, falling asleep. Because if I'm moving, their gaze moves where I go, and then I keep changing direction and all that stuff. But part of that too is because I'm nervous.
Yeah.
And to the students that I have that are listening, keep your mouth shut.
Exposed.
Yeah.
He's out here exposed.
But I mean, that's been, for me in life though, that's been a constant thing because, it's, while one, it's part of what's helped me succeed, two, I doubt myself constantly, and I really don't have a lot of self-esteem. I don't say anything good about myself whenever I'm doing anything. And it's hard because I have to counter that and be like, listen, and I'm constantly reality checking it. I'm like, no, you know what you're doing. But yet, I don't always believe it.
Yeah. I mean, as part of that imposter syndrome, because Mark has it. Like, he'll be real, very humble.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, Mark, you killed it. You did it. It's like, no, like I literally just hit you up yesterday about some stuff because I was having my own moment of imposter syndrome. I'm like, oh, Mark, like I need your help. Like, can you proofread this? Can you? He just knocked it out like it was nothing. And I'm like, see, like, but that's the thing. I just think that it comes with the territory too of when you're doing new things, like new levels, it's going to bring on new type of, doubts or kind of worries. Like you said about teaching. When I was teaching for the first time in person, I remember writing down, I was sweating like crazy. Oh, yeah. And I was writing down like, come on, bitch.
Sweating like a whore in church.
Yeah, like I was pretending like I was doing something, but I was writing affirmations to myself. Like, but it was more like, come on, bitch. Like, I was like, you can do this. Like I was just nervous. And we know counseling in and out. That's what we do. But it felt like, I got to perform.
See, that's why, I don't know. I was cool with it. I didn't like it, but I was cool with it because I went into the mindset of like, this is about to be group therapy to me right now.
You did.
That's how I'm going to run this shit.
But wait, the difference is, but you were online though, right?
No, this was
you did in person?
I did in person.
Yeah, she did in person.
What? You never told me you did in person.
Funny story.
Listen to this shit.
Funny story. So Casey was teaching in person, and it was January of 2020.
Okay.
Right? So earlier in that year, my kids had gotten really sick, and then it spread through the house while they were on Christmas vacation. And it was the sickest I'd ever. I was sick as a mother. I didn't get out of bed for 3 days. And we had gone to urgent care and shit, and they're like, it's a respiratory infection. We're like, are you sure it's not that COVID stuff they're talking about? They're like, no, it's not here.
Okay.
Well, guess what? It was
that
COVID.
was the beginning. It was.
Because like the first 2 weeks of school, I showed up to the classes I had to teach.
Mm-hmm.
I don't fucking remember them. Like I was in a daze.
Oh, it was bad.
And then I was subbing someone's class, and I ran into her on the way, sick as shit. I'm like, Casey, and I give her a big hug.
Passing the cooties.
Passing the vid.
So
I didn't get sick.
But
that's the last time. I did in person for a good maybe 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And then the school shut down for COVID.
Yeah, the school shut
and
down.
And then I had to go online anyways.
So the day the school shut down, though, I had a class like that morning, March 20th.
Yeah.
But the email went out late. So I showed up to class. I'm like, where the fuck is everybody? And then I looked at my email. I'm like, oh, but 2 students also showed up because they missed the email.
Jeez. But yeah.
So you treated like group? You were like.
Yeah.
Well, and
I was like, everybody tell me your name.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then I would just call on people like, what do you think about that?
Yeah.
And they're like,
I do that.
They were just all like, the fuck is she doing? And then you couldn't tell me anything because I know group.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to allow having to
These kids
pretend to be a professor because that was my first,
you know
what I mean? Like in person one. I know the shit. I was already teaching it, but now it's in person. I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
But I know how to do groups. So why not just reframe it for myself to make it easier?
Right.
Because I'm going to knock it out of the park when it's something I know.
So you killed
and that's a way of
syndrome. See?
And that's a way of
up.
coping with it because you reframed it.
Yeah.
The thing is, I know my stuff, but and I do some of that stuff. Like my students freaking hate it because there's always the students that don't want to talk and they hide in the back. Those are the first motherfuckers I call on, and I'll do that, but I still feel it.
I think some of the imposter syndrome I feel now with my classes is when students are hitting me up about, this is the first semester ever that students actually are active in my movie project when they're supposed to be. So thank you.
Good job, kids.
Both of you sets. Thank you guys so much. And the slang and stuff that they were using. And I was responding back. Like, that's so sus. Like I sounds like I'm the cool mom. I was so embarrassed for myself. I was like, all right, Casey, just stick to what you know. But then I think like they're probably like, this old bat trying to act cool. Like I'm so
this shit is lit.
I'm so embarrassed. So embarrassed. Because I realized I've been going through it realizing that like, man, I'm the old one now. Like I can't I can't sit there and be like, no, I'm like they're like cute young mom. No,
cool
bitch,
mom.
You're like middle age, midlife crisis having that.
Oh, we're going down that road.
Cool mom.
Like Star Wars loving, keep your old ass at home. You don't like the fuck.
Right.
And I'm out here like, what's up, y'all? Welcome to the class. I tell them the little intro. I only wear Chucks to everything. They're like, this raggedy bitch.
Wow.
Where does hoe come from?
So we have now shifted into a whole nother world.
But what I'm saying is like, that's where I got to just remember to stick to my core of this is who I am.
Right.
I can't be.
Can't pivot into
Ironically, the next
groovy kids.
Yeah. Next week is the week about being authentic. So
Wow.
yeah. So we're
timing.
just gonna
I'm in tears.
So I'm gonna still use my 90s fucking hip hop
Right.
slang.
Audi 5000.
Yeah. And you're just gonna like it. You're just going, you ate, sis. Okay.
Shamika's laughing is killing me.
She knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And She's probably like one of the ones that sounds cool saying it, and I'm not. And I swear that I think I'm super fucking cool.
God.
But
Let's bring it back. Sorry.
So it kind of comes up then, how do you navigate the imposter syndrome? And you kind of hit on something where you just reframe it to make it yours. And, for me, a lot of times it's facing the challenges that I hold myself back from, because I do. I constantly like talk myself out of doing things. It's like, no, you could do that, but I fear it.
Yeah.
And finding a way to like muster up, the nerve to try it and everything. And I'm wondering if you guys have any other tips that you would give people in navigating the imposter syndrome.
To navigate it?
Yeah.
So the thing is that I just feel like it's going to come. And so I haven't experienced a place of where it hasn't happened. It's just that it's not as extreme. But I always tell people, like, just do it afraid. Like, even if I'm afraid, I'm going to do it. Like, I'm show up and it'll just work itself out. But
except the Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah, it didn't work well. It didn't work itself out. And I still don't know it. But my daughter does. So that's awesome.
So you farmed it out.
Yeah, I pay her. And so she does it. But yeah, so I just to say one thing too, though, again, of like, even when you are in a certain place, you still experience it. Like I did this week when I had my first meeting with my intern, and I was so nervous. Like my hands were sweating. I was like, Eminem, like, Mom, I'm sweating. Like I was like, stomach hurting. I'm texting my husband like, my stomach hurt. Like I was just nervous.
I come home? Right. Come pick me up.
Right, come pick me up.
Right.
I'm sick.
Come pull up.
Right, come pull up. And I was just super nervous. And then it was like when it was happening, it was like just it flowed, So I think it's just getting through the door, the entryway of like the big part. You just got to get there, and then it's gonna just happen. And then after, I was like, "Girl, you killed it," And I was like,
"So can you break down getting through the door for people? Because I feel like that's a huge step in what this is right now.
I also like do it afraid. That's pretty deep.
Well, because the thing is, I feel like if you are called to be in these spaces, in these places, like you're meant to be there, but just show up as you are and then work out all the other stuff later. But you know it, but you have to do it. So I always say when I commit to things, I commit to it good, bad, or indifferent. Like I am going to show up. And then it just works itself out. But you have to pump yourself up to like, just get there. Just get there. I just need you to get there. And so once I was there, it was so amazing. And I was like texting everybody like, I had the best day ever. Like it was, you see what I'm saying? Like, right. Then now I'm like, okay again, like, it's so cool. I love it. So it's the part of just getting through that. Just get there.
So can I speak on that?
Go ahead.
Because at my work, there's there's a lot of younger supervisors, right? That are coming up, and I'm trying to like just
nudge them along.
Not nudge them along because they have it, but just continuous instilling of like empowerment of this, you know what I mean? Of like, you can do it. And we came up with this thing. It's called the Bad Bitch Boot Camp.
Okay.
And it's an actual thing now of like
trademarked and copyrighted.
Yep. T-shirts already coming. To where I've seen just young ladies that have been meek and been quiet and going through imposter syndrome to like being the bad bitch that's running the meeting of like, no, that's not right. This is what I said. This is what I expect. And it's like, shit. And when people give me the feedback of like, did you hear so-and-so in this meeting? Or did you see so-and-so? Or when I see it, I'm like, dang, go ahead. Bad bitch boot camp coming through. And it's like a joke, but really it's not. Because,
It's not.
Because I think it's super important. I mean, one, just in general, right? It's important to, in this field, that you kind of champion around your squad and like, you know that you guys are all in it together. It's a whole other thing though, when it's a group of women continuously trying to support each other in a positive manner, continuous. Like there is no drama there. There is no space for that.
Right.
It's always going to be the cheerleaders behind you. Like, hell yeah.
The
you can go get
empowerment. Bad bitch boot camp.
Bad bitch boot camp.
That's so dope.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. It's like, it's one of those, I don't know, like I never seen anything like that before. You know what I mean? Of like, just people just being there for each other. And then once you got a little tidbit that you needed, then then I've seen that, passing it along to somebody else that needs it.
Right.
And then they're blossoming because it comes from like a
I
pure
think
place.
that's important. And I think in our role, doing supervision, training people, regardless who they are in the field, is training them to do that. Because, there's a lot more people that deal with this, that they don't have that confidence, men and women.
Yeah.
Where navigating through these spaces is very difficult because they don't feel they have the voice, they don't feel they have the power, they don't feel they have the abilities. In reality, they do. And to be able to do that, and then also the key component in that is not only developing that internally, but offering that back to the people behind you that are coming up, and that's how we train more effective leadership, regardless, because, part of the problem that I see in the world today is a lot of people will find the way to build that confidence in themselves, and then they keep it and they don't give it back. It's selfish. And to develop some kind of program where it's like, okay, yeah, you have this, but the big part of this is not just developing your confidence, your belief, working through your imposter syndrome, but then teaching others how to do it for themselves. So then we level that playing field. And I think that's huge.
Yeah.
Because when it comes to the imposter syndrome, there's the 4 P's of imposter syndrome: perfectionism, paralysis, people pleasing, and procrastination. We'll get to procrastination later. But perfectionism, we all know what that is, but the paralysis and people pleasing is where I think a lot of people sit. They're focused on trying to make everybody else happy, and then they get paralyzed when there's challenges.
Did you guys pick up on all this? I mean, you read all this stuff and researched it, but it's almost all of those things are like symptoms of codependency.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. That's interesting. He was saying them all, and I'm like,
yeah,
every single one of those.
Well, I think that goes hand in hand, because I think in relationships, since you wanted to go that route too, in relationships in general.
Since you wanted to go that route, what's up?
Right. You want to go there.
But I mean, that is what codependency is by definition.
Yeah. It's just interesting.
It's
very interesting.
And this is a lot of how codependency also bleeds out into other aspects of our lives.
Yeah.
Because we if you don't believe in yourself in your relationship, and if you don't believe in yourself internally, you're fucked.
Yeah. I mean,
fucked.
No, I think it's hard for people to be. I mean, let's be real. It takes some time for us to be comfortable in our own skin and who we are, and like just accepting this is what we are. You know what I mean? Like, I have to accept every fucking day that I'm just a really badass weirdo. Like, I just am. There's no two ways about it, right?
But how do you find that ability to accept that? Because I think a lot of people struggle with that. I know I do.
I think because it's one of those things where, when I set a boundary of, if I knew like what you guys were saying affected me so much that I couldn't function and I couldn't get it out of my head, then I would have to cut you out. You know what I mean? Or
absolutely
look at it a different way.
Cut a bitch out.
So I set up a ton of boundaries. So then I just looked at things a certain way for myself, and I had to stop like allowing people to tell me what I am. Because, bitch, I know what I am. You know what I mean? And that's, once that stopped, then it was okay. I remember when I was younger, like I was very, very introvert. I still am introverted. I know people don't believe that, but I very much am. Introverted, soft-spoken kid, all this stuff. And then one thing happened one day and I just snapped. And then I just started telling people like, what's good? You know what I mean?
Really?
Yeah. So in my personal life.
Okay.
And I feel like maybe within the last 10 years or 8 has been now I'm doing it in my professional side of like, no.
Oh,
like,
you stepped into
yeah,
that.
you know what I mean? Like I went to school, I did this, I did my time. And I'm like, no pun intended.
Paroled.
Yeah. And I know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? I'm licensed. I'm teaching it. I've been teaching. I'm doing all this stuff. So you can't tell me anything.
Can't tell me nothing.
Can't tell me nothing. but that's what it took. So I'm just gonna always reframe it to fit me, because that's all that matters is me when we're talking about self-esteem and moving forward. Like why do I care what other people like adore you guys, but it shouldn't hold weight on
Right.
you know, unless I'm on some fuck shit, then that's different. But
Okay.
yeah.
What about you, Shamika?
Well, for me, I think it looks different because in terms of, I just like to think of myself sometimes as like a generational curse breaker. So sometimes I may not have the full confidence, or sometimes what people say may hold a little weight. But I think that when I look at it as like being a generational curse breaker, if I don't show up, then guess what? Everything that I said I wanted to do for little Shamika and all the other little black girls in Detroit will not happen. So if I am in places and spaces that there's people that really are versed in what they do, and I may not feel like I have it at the moment, I still have to show up, because then if I don't, then I can't pass the baton to somebody behind me because I failed to show up. So again, I show up, fear and all, whatever. But I have to, because I have to break generational curse. So it looks different.
Sis, that's called being a trailblazer.
Yeah.
If you didn't know.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Trailblazing
Right.
out here in Detroit.
Girl is on fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and it's interesting listening to you guys talk about that, because it makes me think of, you know, now as I embrace the fact that I'm old as fuck. Thanks, Casey.
We here.
But
Solid.
Senior
you know,
discount.
I've started to realize that a lot of the things, you know, because growing up, I spent a lot of time like comparing myself to other people, my siblings or whatever, and you know, I had this belief about, you know, I always believed growing up my sisters were like straight A students and all this, and I was the fuck up because school didn't interest me as much, you know. I mean, I'd be there, I'd do what I did, but I didn't care as much, especially once I got to high school. And I, you know, but I had people that were telling me, you know, why can't you be like your sisters? Why can't you do it like your sisters and everything, you know? And I heard that so much, you know, and I believed a lot of those things. And, you know, later in life, you know, finding out that some of what I believed wasn't true.
Oh.
You know, because in talking to my oldest sister, you know, I mentioned something that she goes, I wasn't a straight A student. I'm like, the fuck?
Right. Yeah.
Like, no, I had like C's and this and this, and I never knew, because I spent all this time, you know, and I spent a lot of my life just comparing, you know, and that's part of what fueled that imposter syndrome, you know. And it wasn't just like one person that like put those messages out there that I was listening to and everything, you know. It came from a lot of different places. And then, you know, as I've gotten older, as I've gotten into my career, as I've done this, I've started to see that not everything I believed growing up was true, and starting, I guess you could say, reframing it, but it's taken a while to get there. And,
Yes.
you know, for people wanting to know how to navigate this, you know, I would really, if you're like me, where there's these messages going, you know, that are in your head that are keeping you from doing things, investigate them.
Yeah, where's it rooted?
Yeah, well, find out how true these statements really are. You know, because once some of these statements once some of these messages that I grew up with started, I found out they weren't real. It changed a lot of things. It was a game changer, you know, but still,
On the
there's
streets,
a
we
lack
call
of,
it game changer.
yeah, I'm from the streets, kind of, but like
The woods, right?
yeah, kind of.
You know that I'm sitting here listening to Mark say this shit, and I'm like, man, that's like, it's making me think of, because I'm imagining like people saying this shit to him, right? And then I think of like in certain cultures, like I know almost every bad thing like one of my cousins have done.
Right.
It was almost like that's what they bragged about. It was like,
Yeah.
oh, Shamika did this. Well, let me tell you what Casey's ass did.
Right.
She
Right.
out there, but you know
But
what I
I
mean?
was always that kid. I was always the one they're like,
But that's
But
the
just
thing.
about culture.
Yeah, but that's the thing though. That's the culture.
Yeah.
But then like when we get older and we talk about it with the people that it happened to, they're like, man, I just did blah, blah, blah.
yeah.
And it's like, fuck, I'm out here thinking because of somebody else's perception.
Well, and that's
you know what I
one
mean?
of the things that started. Like I remember, you know, talking like my grandmother, right? Like I'd always hear about my cousins, you know, that lived on the East Coast, and we lived in the Midwest, and so like we didn't really see them all that much growing up, like a couple times. But would always hear about all these things they were doing from my grandma and everything, and you know, here I'm, you know, fucking up doing, you know, stuff because I'm in my own shit. But, you know, I'm like, man, we are the black sheep.
Oh.
I'm sorry, the African-American sheep.
Black is an acceptable thing. Is it not?
But,
Black is an acceptable.
but you know, then it's like,
Melanin cheek.
I was like,
but as you know, as I got older and I got to actually spend some time with my cousins and everything. And that's what happened. Like one of my cousins, he had some stuff and he came out here and stayed with us.
I don't know. You got
And he's telling me, he's like, no, dude, I was doing all this. And I was like, really? And that's when I realized, well, grandma's only going to tell me the good shit or like brag about the good shit.
But speak to that, because I'm trying to get it together. But to speak to that too, like when you were talking about, why are you looking at me?
I'm listening.
Speaking to that of like where it's rooted too. Well, Mark was talking about like sometimes it was embedded somewhere, like somebody told you that. And so that's like what I tell clients too, like who told you that? You know, like that kind of thing. But I identify what you was talking about because I remember my grandmother used to be like, your cousin such and such is in college and doing this. Oh, I'm like, well, bitch, I'm only in 9th grade. You know, so what you want me to do? You know, so
I wish I would have had that courage.
like,
Oh my God.
how would I be in the same space? But
Make it make sense, Granny.
make it make sense. Damn, Granny.
You got that McDonald's money?
I have to slap a bitch.
Boy.
but I'm saying though,
Granny, why you got a black eye? I done told Shamiki's in college.
Man.
she had me fucked up.
My mom used to say that. My mom used to say that shit to me all the time. Like I was so close with my granny, and I'd be like, and she's like, when your granny gets here, because she said something, I was like, ooh, I'm gonna tell. Me being like the little tattletale that I
Right.
clearly was as a child. I was like, oh, I'm gonna tell granny, and she's like, shh. Tell granny, and I'm gonna knock her ass out right in front of you. And I was like, Mom,
I was like, dude.
yeah, I'm like, yo, Mom, I like, sir, don't do that. And she's like, wait until she walks through that door. Boom. I was like, what?
Right. But
No.
see, that's the issue of like,
No.
where did it come from?
Right.
But I think too, the people that get labeled like the black sheep and all that, because
Right.
I was or still is, like, those be the generational curse breakers.
Yeah.
Like, they go off and do their own thing. And I've heard stuff, even about myself, like, because of my family dynamics, you're not gonna make it. Oh, I can't believe she graduated. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then it was like, well, damn, like, you supposed to be empowering me,
Right.
like,
Yeah.
so if you don't have that or you haven't experienced it, I think imposter syndrome would hit you a little different because.
Right. And, that's one of the things is I've, the older I've gotten and the more I've understood about the world, and like even in the family, it's like, yeah, I may have felt like we were the black sheep family, where like, because we were isolated. We were in the Midwest. Everyone else was out on the East Coast and everything.
But you were isolated.
We were, and my parents weren't much for traveling. I mean, that's
We remember that story.
yeah. That was a traumatic Christmas. But it's like knowing some of the stuff that was going on that you never really knew as a kid, and it's like, well, I mean, shit, yeah, we had our stuff going on, but like, damn, so did everybody else.
Right.
Maybe we weren't, as crazy or as
Or a little bit.
well, I mean, yeah, but we weren't as bad as I
Right.
felt we were because of all the things that I was hearing, and that's changed a lot of things. You
Yeah.
know?
And you're Dr. Mark now.
Yeah.
You were from sniffing glue to
God damn. Not
kidding.
God.
I like the smell. I like
Not
the
sniffing
smell.
right.
That makes like hearing us talk about all this stuff. Have you guys, I know I said this before, watched Winning Time on HBO
Winning Time?
about the Lakers, the rise of the Showtime Lakers.
Okay.
So anyways, Dr. Jerry Buss,
Right.
like just hustled his way to figure out how to do this shit to run a basketball team.
Really?
Yes. And that's what
I
this
gotta
shit's
put it
about.
on my list.
And it's
All right.
it's one of those like it's almost like everybody's just trying to figure it the fuck out of like how do we do this, and I think it's interesting though, because there's the theme song goes by the Coop. I think it would be my theme song, because here it goes, like it goes through all of like LA and then like the good and the bad, and it's a vibe, you know what I mean? And
Right.
seeing that, and it makes me think of like my parents, and I feel like my parents are always been fucking cool and
Right.
I've been not. So when I watch like my mom or my dad like go out there and just do their thing, I'm like, man, I'm gonna do that. And
Yeah.
then I end up looking like Shamika trying to do Excel. Like, I'm not as cool. But you know what I mean? But I think I've been
I think your
practicing.
computer got a virus.
It's like I've been practicing just trying to like, convince myself. You know what I mean? That I
Right.
can do,
Right.
that I can do some shit. And every time I see that opening, you guys gotta watch it. It's so good.
I
But
will.
then like the Lakers are just
See, now I gotta watch
everybody's
it.
just trying to fucking just make it, because
Mm-hmm.
the owner of the Lakers is his thing is the dude from the Celtics, right?
Right.
And so the guy from the Celtics has championships and he's trying to get into the game.
Yep.
But he's like, fuck, I've never done this before, so I gotta. But at every single level, millionaires, us, regular folk, whatever, there's all different levels of that type of imposter syndrome.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then like if you just have the knack for just like being a chameleon, it's gonna help. And that's what I've been doing. But then it goes back to like being a chameleon is probably a trauma response. But that's okay.
But some
That's okay. That's okay.
But that's the thing is some trauma responses are adaptive
That's
and
one of them.
beneficial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The chameleon one, because boy, you could put me here. You
Yeah.
can go
Yeah.
put me in a boardroom. You can go put me on the streets.
Yes.
You can go put me anywhere, and I'm gonna adapt. I'm gonna make friends.
Yep.
Everybody's gonna be cool with
Yep.
me. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like it's like being the kid in high school that was cool with like everybody. I like
Yeah.
goth
That's
friends.
you.
Yeah.
You're the cool
Yeah.
kid.
No, not the cool kid. I'm like the nomad. I don't belong anywhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
not the cool kid?
No. No. I wasn't trying to be cool. I was just being me.
Okay.
Again, weird, listening to hip
That's a
hop.
cool kid.
That is the cool kid now, but
Yeah.
can't convince the cool kids because it's not, if I'm not hype or if I'm not whatever,
Right.
let me keep my,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. So does it ever go
my
away?
slang down.
I don't think so. I think, again, that it's not as loud.
Okay.
The voice may not be as loud, but I don't think it fully goes away because a new level, is going to be, a different type of feel or anxiety. But I don't think so. I just think that for people, are we doing closing comments before I?
Keep going.
Oh, am I closing?
Keep going.
You talking.
Keep
We're
going.
listening.
Oh,
Don't be the imposter syndrome. Just
right.
keep going.
Look at my peers.
We letting you
I'm
go.
like, I'm not going to look at a
To my
person.
peers.
You have this.
Preach.
Right.
Preach,
Yeah.
sister, preach.
Makes sense. I've never talked before. Oh my God.
Is this Excel spreadsheet working?
Right.
The way she
The
did
virus.
it too, like, whoa.
Then back then it was that big ass computer too.
Right.
Boy,
And so you can see it full on because it's not a little laptop. It's a huge ass desktop, big back.
listen, when I was 18 years old, I went and got a job at the airport and I somehow ended up in the accounting office. So I don't know. Listen,
See?
I be getting myself into into some shit.
Chameleon. Go ahead.
There we go. And so I went I was in the cash room. Oh, but that's where the job was at, right? The boss, he was the controller. He's like, do you know how to use a 10-key
Calculator.
Yeah. And I was like, yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I do. He's like, okay, flips the thing around and he writes his numbers down. And he's like, okay, show me. And I was like, okay. He's like, but look at me when you do it. And I was like,
shit.
okay. So I go, can I just look around here real fast to put my fingers down? He's like, yeah. And then I looked at him, look at the thing. And I look and he's like, well, it's not perfect, but it's good enough. And I was like, yes. He's like, never hired anybody as young as you, so I'm going to take a chance. So I was like,
I was just bullshit, man.
I was like, but that's the thing. I just had to. It was like he was Diddy and I was the meme of just.
Right.
Oh, I got this. I can still do it to this
Every
day.
key you punch.
Every step I take. Damn, Casey.
That would have been somebody that did help me with imposter syndrome because I had no business being in like accounting. I ended up
Casey
doing
from
like,
accounting.
yeah, I ended up doing like accounts receivable. Like, can you imagine me doing that shit? I did payroll and
Yeah.
I was good.
Oh, you
I was good. But then like somebody would always bring a chair and sit right there and then they would sit there and tell me all their problems. My boss would always come in like, what do you got work to do? And they'd be like, oh yeah. And he's like, what they come over here and talk to you about? And somebody would say, psh, they just cry to Casey. And I was like, man.
So you were a counselor in training already.
It was setting the foundation.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be invoicing you fools back. Yeah, we're gonna retro them pays.
Adjust for inflation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so now closing thoughts.
Okay, so I want to say that let the dreams and the visions be louder than the whisper of, you can't, you don't belong here, that kind of thing. Make sure you just show up. Just show up. One more thing, because I feel like, because we're talking about imposter syndrome, let me just give myself some flowers. Okay?
Please do.
Okay?
Okay.
I've been voted top 10 influential women of 2023.
What?
Suck it, Oprah.
Yeah.
Congratulations,
Good job. Congrats.
sis. That's
So,
amazing.
Yeah.
Nice.
Showing them what's up.
Yeah. I feel good.
Who needs Excel?
Yeah.
Bitch, I can do it
Where she
without
at?
it.
Look at me now.
Ooh.
Getting paid.
Okay.
But no,
Chris
just
Brown. I was like, okay, Chris Brown.
look at me now.
What you got, Mark?
So
What you got,
really
Lede?
at the end of the day, I like what Shamika said, about, just doing it afraid. And to me, it's about learning to embrace the fact that it's there. And if you use it in a way that helps you improve, it doesn't have to be a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yes.
What about you?
Wait.
Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. When you said use it, because that means that you're really going to rise up and go to another level.
Yeah.
If you're feeling that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let it motivate you to get better
Yeah.
versus paralyzing you to stay kind of in that
Oh,
pattern.
yes. All right, Casey from accounting.
Cool. Not Casey from accounting. Literally, what? That's
Hit the commas.
That's what Bab
hit the
said
plus.
back in the day. Oh.
Sum total.
Where the fuck's my paycheck at, Casey? My paycheck was short. That's the phone calls I got.
Run
So,
up on your ass.
Yeah. I'm in the union.
Run me my money.
Okay. I would say, remember to, you don't have to see it for what it is. Reframe it for yourself and just know that you are that bad bitch that can do shit. And don't be afraid to do shit. Don't be afraid to leap. Don't be afraid to speak up. Don't be afraid of your own shadow. You can absolutely do this shit. If you reframe it for yourself, because you can always bet on yourself.
Yeah.
Always bet on yourself.
Okay.
What about the men? Can they be bad?
Yeah. Bad bitches is not, it's not
okay.
gender associated.
But it's a solid title.
Bad bitch 'em.
Yeah. Bad bitch applies to men, women.
But it's a solid title. I like.
Yeah. Non-binary. We accept all of it.
So before we close up, got to give some shout outs.
Yeah, can we do that?
Yeah. Do you guys have anybody you want to?
So just a quick shout out to Nothing But Bunk Cakes on, I think it's Rainbow.
Okay.
Yeah, for helping me celebrate. And
Okay.
yeah.
Want to give some shout outs to our listeners, Maria, Amy,
Hi, Maria. Amy.
Barry,
Barry.
and Bradshaw Construction.
Oh, okay.
Bradshaw, if you need stuff done, those are the people to call.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, sound like money.
And I forgot.
We had Daphne. We had Rita.
Yeah.
Right? Am I correct?
Yep, Daphne,
on that?
Rita,
I'm just seeing from what I see.
Melanie,
the names.
Beverly.
Melanie.
We've got, and our,
the guys.
yeah, the guys, John, but if for everybody that's listening, please share it with other people if you're really enjoying it. We're having fun doing this. You want to take us out, Casey?
Yeah. Just don't mess with my money and don't mess with my D.
Boom.
Mic drop. Peace.
Oh, 85,000.